What up, YouTube? So, been thinking about this subject for a few days, and I noticed there's so much stoicism on the internet, probably especially aimed at young men, because I get all this stoicism content all the time. And I've also watched a number of like really long videos on hedonism, read a couple books on it, and hedonism in the common parlance has a bad reputation of just kind of living wild and free, going going out partying all night, catching STDs and hangovers, but really that's not what classical hedonism actually is. Hedonism is just putting pleasure and subjective well-being above all things. And I would argue that we're all actually hedonists and no one's actually a stoic. Even people who say they're stoics. So stoicism puts virtue as the highest value. But the thing about that is that's like saying you're putting the map of your town over your actual town, or the blueprint of your house above your house. Like the whole point of virtue is to live a good life, right? And what is a good life? A good life's a life you enjoy, right? And if you want to make it about more than yourself, it's about your subjective well-being, the subjective well-being of your family, subjective well-being of your community, the subjective well-being of your environment. You could add sustainability to that, right? Because if you shoot heroin, I've never done so, but if you do it, you'll feel good, probably really good for a short while, but it's not sustainable. You're going to crash and feel really crap the next day. But still, the goal is the same. What is the point of virtue? To live a good life. What is the point of a good life? To be satisfied with your life. Just stoicism just kind of seems like a cope to me. And it just seems like factually incorrect and could be outright damaging. There's a quote, a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, which basically means to believe the wrong thing stupidly and to carry forward as you're getting negative feedback is just dumb, right? I feel like the Stoics would put on the bottom rung is people who are lazy, people who just kind of given up on life and aren't trying at all. And then better is even to have the wrong beliefs and to persist at that. And then the highest is to have the correct virtue. But again, virtue is based on reality. Everything comes back to reality. Like virtue isn't the highest reward. Reward is the highest reward. Like, when you experience subjective well-being, it's a sign you're doing something right. What's one of the best pleasures in life? People think food, sex, creative expression. Those are all really good. But to me, one of the highest, maybe the highest, is when you get the feeling you're doing everything right. You get the feeling it's like a flow state where you've practiced this, or maybe you haven't practiced. Maybe just everything is flowing. And why is it flowing? Because you're in touch with reality. Because things are happening and you're spontaneously making the right decisions in response to those things. And if you live in your head, if you live in a code of ethics, like a static idea of what virtue is, like you can't react. You're just, I don't know. It almost like fetishizes, what is that? Amor fati, like accept your fate. Like, sorry, that's lame. That's a cope. Like, sure, you accept your fate, but that's the start point. You accept where you're at so you can do better. And if you feel like you can't do better, it's just going to be depressing no matter what kind of stoic face you put on it. And I think maybe this triggers me a bit personally because my dad, like, clearly was into stoicism. I mean, he had a bust of Cicero in his office. And I mean, that was the thing back in the day, right? That like World War II children, I mean, he was born in 36, so his dad was in World War II. And that just kind of be a man, just like face forward. Don't get too emotional, don't get too distracted. But I mean, again, it's a middleman. It's a middleman having virtue, working really hard so you can enjoy life later. I mean, I think I made an earlier video, and I really had this intense experience the other day. Just really, life is meant to be enjoyed in the moment. And the only way to accomplish something is to enjoy the process of accomplishing it in the moment. If you're just kind of suffering for a long term end, like, I just don't really see the point. Not only don't I see the point, I just don't think it's the most effective way to do things. So, yeah, let me try to get back. I didn't write any of this down. I mean, I made some notes to myself. I emailed myself some notes, but yeah, I just think it's just straight up a middleman, and it's more than that. It's like protection. Ironically, this like Stoics are like, I'm tough. I can deal with reality. I don't need a coat, but I think it is a coat. It's like a protection against the direct experience of reality. Like, reality will reward you if you think the right thoughts and you do the right things and you're on the right path. You don't like That's how you design virtue, and virtue is not some static thing that you can memorize and then you know what to do. I mean, life is much too dynamic for that. Virtue, like, we have feelings, we have subjective well-being as what's the word, litmus test, as guidance, really. Stuff we think we know, and then life happens, and then we realize we don't, and that's just never ending. Like, there's this idea that hedonists are lazy and Stoics work hard. Hedonism is the ultimate hard work, because you constantly have to be present, you constantly have to adapt, you constantly have to change your beliefs, because the pursuit of pleasure is the pursuit of subjective well-being of yourself and others and your community and the environment and the ecosystem, and life itself is not for the faint of heart. It's constant work and constant course correction. So, yeah, I just, yeah, virtue isn't the highest reward. Reward is the highest reward. It's just self evident. I just don't see any verbal way you could get out of this predicament, and it's just the smoothest, the simplest way. Like, what is it? Oscom's razor, Oscom, however you say his name, OCCUM. It's funny when you spend so much time on the internet and you read more than you hear. You sometimes you don't know how to pronounce stuff, but yeah, reward is the highest reward, and yeah, hedonism is not, partying and seeking pleasure right now. It's more complicated than that. And it's what we all do all day, every day. We're trying to maximize our well-being, and unless we're sociopaths, we're trying to maximize the well-being of others. Or even a really smart sociopath would realize how interconnected he or she is to the wider world, and want to. In fact, yeah, I actually think probably some sociopaths probably produce more good than people who are too empathetic, because they just get caught up in other people's emotions. So, I mean, if you have good enough goals, you don't even need empathy. But I mean, for those of us with empathy, we might as well use it as part of our guiding philosophy. And I think if you have empathy, you can't help it. You can't help but feel suffering at the suffering of others, and feel joy at the joy of others. Combined with envy and resentment and pettiness and all that. We're all just only human. But so anyway, just let me know what you think. I don't mean to trash Stoicism. I think it's something good to try on. I just don't see why you would continue to glorify an abstraction over, like, reality. Like, virtue is in your head, and reality is, like, right here, like smacking in the face, giving you feedback right now. And to say that feedback is not important, and to say that the abstract is higher, is just pretty stupid. Anyway, Namaste. Thanks for watching.